Mankind can always be relied upon to produce ingenious ways of killing itself and others. Technology constantly evolves, and so does weaponry. Wireless tech and robots are changing the landscape of modern warfare, but it's a complicated business. For those who can perfect it, the world could be their oyster. An oyster armed with deadly missiles. To see what's happening out on the drawing boards and battlefields of the world today, check out our rundown of 6 secret future weapons. Underwater mines are amongst the most dangerous elements of sea warfare. They're suspended from the ocean bed or are buried under the sand. All you have to do is run into one of them and boom! Previous generations have seen divers and even trained dolphins sent down to defuse these deadly bombs, but the US Navy are taking a different approach fit for the digital age, with mine-hunting robots. The technology is exciting, but it hasn't developed as quickly as hoped. As of 2019, the Navy are 11 years late with the launch, so to speak. However, it looks like it might be entering operation soon, with the important tests being carried out. So how does a mine-hunting robot work? It's a combination of increasingly small vehicles that work autonomously to neutralize the mine, whilst feeding information back to Navy personnel at a safe distance. First, the Mine Countermeasures Module sends an unmanned service vehicle, or USV, out into the minefield. Made by the company Textron, this is designed to be used with America's littoral combat ships. The USV carries a pod known as AN-AQS-20, which is sonar-equipped. Dragged behind the USV on a tow line, it takes things deeper and scans the bottom of the water for threats. All the while, a human crew are being kept aware of developments. Once a mine is verified by photo evidence, the final and explosive stage commences. A Barracuda drone, which kind of looks like a cigar shape, is deployed to take out the ball of death. The Mine Countermeasures Module is designed to neutralize several mines in one mission, so its positive effect will be incalculable. Of course, they've got to get it working properly first. Once they do, Navy teams are going to be a lot safer. Of course, warfare is about using mines as well as taking them out. That's where smart landmines come in. Usually, mines or similar devices will be positioned in large numbers in order to deter an enemy by getting them to proceed slower. Landmines also play a role pushing an enemy in a particular direction, locking them off with a field of bombs that hopefully won't have to go off. Smart mines of the sort currently being put together by the US Army are seen as a vital next move in this game. Remote control mines such as the Claymore, which have been in use since the Vietnam War, are effective, but all those mines are tough to keep track of. A mine with the ability to maintain constant communication with its owners will not only provide serious support, but reduce the likelihood of civilian casualties. Even when a conflict has ended, landmines are missed and encountered by unsuspecting people who suffer terrible injuries, if they survive. This will always be a controversial subject. The Ottawa Treaty came into effect in 1999 and aimed to prevent the widespread use of landmines. America hasn't signed up to the treaty, but scaled back on things like submunitions or scattering bombs. If they get smart mines off the ground, or rather onto it, they'll have independent explosive devices which effectively think for themselves. For example, they can report back if they're tampered with, and smart landmines also act like a member of the team. How so? It can keep watch on the combat zone and inform the military about approaching vehicles and so forth. Are there drawbacks? Yes. As with any mobile device, the mine could be hacked or blocked from communicating with home base. Yet, bringing landmines into the 21st century should make the business safer. At least as safe as it can be. While we usually think of America or Russia as big hitters on the military playing field, others are coming up with new ways to give them a headache. The Polish army looks to be ahead of the curve by resurrecting the idea of the tank destroyer, or as it's also referred to, the tank killer. It's still at concept art stage, but the development is making people nervous. Poland is currently working with NATO and is not friendly with its neighbor Russia. If this destroyer gets off the drawing board, it could cause Russia's tank columns serious damage if they choose to roll in. What does a tank destroyer do? It's designed to combine speed and devastating firepower. This new breed of tank killer is a joint project between PZG on the Polish side and MBDA, which represents other European parties. It would have a range of about 7 miles, 12 kilometers, and be able to strike at targets even if it can't see them. How come? Because of the brimstone anti-tank missiles contained in the vehicle, which range between 12 and 24 in number, according to the concept. These missiles are not only deadly, but radar-guided. This means they can be launched in the vicinity of the target before identifying and homing in on it. It's believed one destroyer could tear more than a few strips off a tank battalion. Other notable features illustrated include a BMP-1 chassis, familiar from the Cold War era, when Poland was signed up to the infamous Warsaw Pact, and a .50 caliber heavy machine gun from the States, set on a remote turret. The idea of a tank killer isn't new. The US used them during the Cold War, but have since stopped relying on destroyers. It seems other armies would be hard-pushed to send something with the equivalent mobility and powerful force to handle this Polish weapon of the future. Space is seen as the final frontier in human warfare, so it makes sense for countries to be giving the idea of space weapons serious thought. Satellites are potentially juicy targets, seeing as they are packed with information. Now, France has decided it's going to play hardball with its own brand of space-based anti-satellite laser weapons. Just last year, there were tensions between them and Russia when the latter's Luch satellite got too close for comfort to a French-Italian counterpart. The idea is to create an overall air and space army to take on threats happening outside our atmosphere. America has mentioned a space force, and it looks like France are ramping up their efforts to prepare for battle amongst the stars. They've been behind with laser development, so this project gives the perfect, if deadly, opportunity to hone their skills. The lasers won't blast the satellites out of the sky, it seems, but blind them. In addition to laser satellites, there will also be nanosatellites, which act as little bodyguards to the main players as they go about their cosmic business. By weaponizing previously harmless satellites, Paris is truly taking things into the Star Wars age, a challenge that will have to be met by both its friends and rivals. As well as mines, combat forces place great stock in the deadly art of both obstacle breaching and combat engineering. The robotic M1 Abrams is seen as quite literally a lifesaver in this area. Before we look into it, let's examine the type of situation it'll be used in. For starters, what is obstacle breaching and combat engineering in the first place? Well, the obstacles take the form of mines, barriers, trenches, and go right down to small but vicious details such as barbed wire. It's generally referred to as a counter-mobility plan. Brave combat engineers have to go in and remove such obstacles so they can proceed. As you can imagine, it's an extremely dangerous job to have. In previous decades, men would have to crawl in and hope they didn't take a bullet. Clearly, as technology moved on, this situation couldn't stand. So the ABV, or Assault Breacher Vehicle, came into play. This is basically an all-in-one obstacle removal system, a converted M1 Abrams tank that became the M1150 ABV, which can cut through all the wires and sweep away the mines. Tests have been taking place in Washington for the next stage in ABV development, the Robotic Complex Breach Concept, RCBC. It does everything as before, only this time it's unmanned, making the operation a lot safer. Part of a collaboration between the Army and the Marines known as Joint Warfighting Assessment, JWA, it has been making waves in the local area in unexpected ways. Such work with futuristic technologies like robots generates substantial electromagnetic interference. As a result, garage doors of a certain age are moving independently because of the action over in Yakima. Now, we mentioned satellites before as part of a space-based weaponry, but they don't sound particularly threatening. If there's a more impressive type of space firepower you're after, then look no further than the American particle beam. The idea actually goes back to the infamous Star Wars program of the 1980s, though advancing tech is enabling the Pentagon to do it faster and better. So, what is it? To begin with, we should point out that this is not some big laser gun. Particle beams differ from lasers. How? Because lasers rely on electricity to shoot and generate extreme heat on the surface of enemy targets. With a particle beam, you're relying on a powerful accelerator that generates lots of neutrons. These are then concentrated into a beam and fired at close to the speed of light. The latest particle beam will be in low orbit, approximately 621 miles, 1,000 kilometers, and is designed to take out missiles such as ballistic missiles almost as soon as they're launched by opponents. Another thing the particle beam does is go inside the enemy weapons to fry its interior, so you can't get a reflective surface to fend it off like you would with a laser beam. Of course, such a formidable weapon operating outside the Earth's atmosphere takes a lot of power and a practical enough arrangement to give it juice. This is a key area where things get sticky for developers, and it's hoped the issue will be resolved in the next few years. While this list is far from a reassuring one, it gives you some idea of the ingenuity involved in putting together instruments of destruction. Whether small scale or large, it'll be fascinating to see how these weapons develop, though also more than a little worrying. If you liked the video, then click the subscribe button and turn on notifications, and you'll be the first to know when we release a new video. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.